challenged them about a month ago to learn some hymns. Because I was told that a contemporary band can't play hymns a long time ago. And I said, why not? You know, sometimes you just got to ask the question, why not? No isn't always the answer. Sometimes you start to play with something and you realize, well, there was no reason not to do this. We had to modernize it a little bit so that it was easier to play. But the songs come out the same, do they not? Well, we almost had a commitment. So, I think they did a great job. And I'm very impressed with Pastor Sandy's leading and Pastor Jennifer's, or Samantha's willingness. I'm looking over here and talking over here. It never works out well. I'm over the top with what they put together and how they're working together to make your worship experience even better. With that said, how many of you was that the first time you heard our worship band? Well, nobody wants to put their hands up. Yeah. Did I not have something I could throw back there? Oh well, maybe not today. I didn't warm up anyway. I don't know that I could. He knows who I'm talking to. This is my favorite day of the year. I begin to look at the Easter service so far in advance. I won't tell you how far, but I will give you this little tip. Tonight, I'll be concerned about next year. That's how much emphasis I put on this. This is my favorite day in the church calendar. It's my favorite day in my family calendar. Because this is the greatest thing that ever was. That Christ rose. That Christ is risen is the greatest thing there ever was. Without this simple thing, simple, you know, like it's so easy just to bring people back from the dead. But this one simple thing that God makes true proves without a doubt, no matter what else we might think, that He is God. That the reality is that there was never anyone else who ever said, trust me on this, I'm going to die, and it's going to be just this way. It's going to be ordered, and then after I die, 3 days later, I'm going to come back and see you again, and we'll hang out for a few weeks, and then I got to go. Never has that been said or done before then or since then and happened just the way it was told. This alone is the proof of a holy God who sent His Son to live a perfect life, to be murdered for a crime He didn't commit, to be raised from the dead. And all of this 30-something years of anguish that Jesus lived on this earth, all of this, including His punishment and His death, was for you. I'm burdened by that today because I'm not worthy. To know that anyone else would ever take any kind of punishment on my behalf, I have no recourse but to say, I'm not worthy. And yet He did it anyway. Further that by saying, not only did He do it, but He did it for a chance that we might love Him. Not a guarantee, not a money-back guarantee, a chance that we might see His sacrifice and say, well, that was good. That we would see His resurrection and say, well, that was for my redemption. learned a definition. If you were here at the Seder yesterday, you learned a new definition for redemption. I thought somebody would do it. Anyway, God buying back what was originally His. I really like that definition. And it really stuck in me, and then that the purchase was real. You know, have you ever gone to the store and bought something with cash? See, today we're in this cashless society, and this doesn't hurt. This doesn't hurt at all. But when you go to a store and you've got to count off the dollar bills, there's a loss. A visual loss that happens as you shred those dollar bills away from the one before it. And they leave your hand not to be returned. Empty. Like my pockets. Nothing in there. And the cost for our redemption was real. God felt Jesus leave His physical presence. He felt the pain of the sin that had ever happened and that will ever happen. And He felt the life, the human life, leave Him. A real cost, a real separation happens there. And this is what troubles me today. That separation is tough. The concern every Easter that I start to think about, and the reason that this impacts our family so deeply, is because I've taken and personalized the Easter story and tried to find someone that I love enough that I would be willing to send my son to be sacrificed for a chance that they might reciprocate. And time after time, as I consider this, I come up with no one that I'm willing to do that for. Not because I'm not generous or loving or kind or want to be in relationship with other people, but because that's my son. It just drives home how much it costs to make that transaction. For the chance that I might love him back. If you have your Bibles, I would encourage you to turn to Matthew chapter 7. We're going to look at verses 12 through 29. If you don't have your Bible, it'll be up there on the screen. You can follow along. But I'd encourage you to take your Bible, or your digital Bible, or your electronic Bible, or whatever it is you're using, scrolls or scribes, or whatever you might be able to get your hands on, and mark this passage of Scripture so that you can go back and look at it later. Follow along with me. So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you. For this sums up the law and the prophets. Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate, and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. Watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. By their fruit you will recognize them. Do people pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Likewise, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus, by their fruit, you will recognize them. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, Did we not prophesy in your name? And in your name drive out demons? And in your name perform many miracles? Then I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like the wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against the house. Yet it did not fall, because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the wind blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash. When Jesus had finished saying these things, the crowds were amazed at his teaching, because he taught as one who had authority, and not as their teachers of the law. Follow along with me here, if you would, because this is the conclusion of the best sermon there ever was. Not because I wrote it or preached it. One person. Come on. But because Jesus spoke these words, and this conclusion is meant to, not meant to target anyone, but it's meant to expose what we would call a veneer religion. A kind of spirituality that the righteous on the outside may not be on the inside. It's a cultural or religious belief that's based on who you know, where you were born, what you might have read, or the things that you do. This veneer religion is not based on a relationship with God. It's based on all these other things. Our relationship with God is meant to be based on a changed heart and a brokenness that is focused on daily holiness. This veneer religion, it sounds, well, you've heard it before. I was born in church. I always went to church. I've been going my whole life. I go to Sunday school every week. I've always been a Christian. Well, I know that you're not supposed to do these things, but it's not that big of a sin. I know that I'm saved. I'm just backslidden. Maybe you've heard these things, or in a group this size, I'm sure a few have even said these things. This thin religion is knowing the facts about God, knowing the story of Jesus, but not actually being changed into his likeness. See, a genuine belief causes change. The scary reality of this paper-thin religion is that many churches around our country are full of people who have self-deceived into thinking that they have this solid relationship. It's really broken. They have the appearance of godliness, but deny all of the power of God. It would be as though you look around and you see yourself in the mirror and then walk away and not know who it was you just saw. It's a sober reality that we should carefully consider. Not everyone who claims to be a believer has this deep relationship with God. And I would say today that without that deep relationship, what you really have is a wide open road that's not going where you think it's going. I know the Easter message is supposed to be lovely and blossoming and make you feel good, and I hope you do by the time I'm done, but the start of this doesn't sound that way. But we have to set this basis of where we're going so that we can get where we're supposed to be. A while back, I read a quote from a person who studies revivals, and he was asked, what would happen if revival happened in all of the churches across America? And without missing a beat, he said, millions and millions of Christians would get saved. Let that sink in for you just a little bit. It's my aim today to lead you to a point where you could see, if you could answer the question, who am I really? And am I genuinely converted to the cause of Christ? In Romans chapter 8, verse 16, it says, the Spirit himself bears witness with our spirit that we would be called children of God. Children know their Father. Children recognize his voice. This is the same relationship that God desires to have with us. It's the entire reason why he sent his Son. The Sermon on the Mount comes down to this one question. Are you for real? Are you for real? Do you know him as king, or do you know him as a religious icon? Do you know him as king? Do you know him as son? Do you know him as the only cause for your salvation? The only relief for your burden? Jesus ends this great message with a call to choose. He lays it all out for his listeners, and it's recorded for us so that we might see that there's two gates, two paths, two kinds of trees, two kinds of fruits. And he ends the sermon with a crystal clear call to make a decision. To make a decision about whether or not you're real. And the golden rule in this summary, we should all know this. It's not necessarily used in churches as much as it's used in preschools. Not many preschool teachers here. There we go. In the preschool, it's one of the first things you teach the kids. Don't do anything to anybody that you don't want done to you. And this goes to an extreme. We had a tiny problem with my son in school. He liked to bite kids. And, the teachers at the pre-K, they don't have a sense of humor about that. At all. I said, well, maybe somebody was doing something and he needed to punish him for it. They didn't buy my logic. Well, after a while, this gets to be a problem. They start writing you these little notes. Your kid bit this kid today. What am I supposed to do with that note? Am I supposed to apologize to this kid? Am I supposed to call his mom? His dad? Apparently they wanted me to do all of those things. But instead, what I did is I asked my son, I said, why do you bite? He said, well, that way they give me what I want. Well, I get that. That makes good sense to me. So, to make sure that he understood that really wasn't appropriate, and I'm sure I'll have somebody call DCF on me in a minute. To make sure that he understood, I took away his toy, and when he got mad about it, I bit him. And he cried. And I said, do you like to get bit? His answer? No. Don't bite. It's the same logic, what do you do if your kid's hitting somebody? Give them a little pop. Pop. That straightens that out. But Jesus is explaining to us that this is not just for preschoolers. This is for all of us, for all of humanity, that we should do unto others as we would have them do to us. It's a very simple concept. It's often called the golden rule. I call it a commandment. I think we could bend it that way, that maybe that's the 11th commandment. No? It's not very theologically sound, but it sounds good to say that what Jesus told us, his instruction is, do to others what you want done to you. You know what he's saying here? Love people. Care for them. Be concerned what happens to them. That I believe that if we treated all of the people around us like we treat our children, whole communities would be converted. Because they would see that love, that care, that concern about making life better and different. It certainly would not be the case that I would cut my child off in traffic. He might crash and wreck my car. It'll get there. It'll pass around the room. In Matthew chapter 5, verse 20, it says, unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven. What? Did you catch that? Unless you're more righteous than the pastors and the teachers, you won't get into heaven. Any of you want to claim you're more righteous than the pastor? No? So we're all going down this dark road together, huh? This is what Jesus is saying. He's saying all of the teachers of the law of that time, unless they were more righteous than they currently were, they would certainly not enter heaven. This is alarming, not just to the people that heard this message, but to the teachers of the law. They're very bothered by this in this moment that, wait a minute, we've studied, we went to school to be better at the law, we teach it, and now you say we're not righteous enough? I've devoted my entire life to being the leader here. And now Jesus comes and says, not good enough. The reality is that none of us are actually good enough. But we try. We try to get to the edge, but without that sacrifice, none of us are good enough. Without Jesus' blood spilled on our life, none of us are good enough. I imagine that the time will come where we stand in front of God. And we have two attorneys to the right and to the left of us. It doesn't matter which one's on which side, but I imagine one is Jesus and one is Satan. If you're an attorney, I'm not calling you Satan. Just let's get past that. Some of them are, but that has nothing to do with what we're talking about today. And Satan says, this one's mine. Look, you did this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And Jesus lets it all be said. And he says, I object. This is mine. My blood was all over him. His sins are forgiven. There's no crime that he will be held for. That text, that illustration is rolling in my head. That this is the opportunity that we all have, and if we don't take advantage of it, instead of Jesus saying, this is mine, he says, I never knew you. And eternity changes for us. The problem with the religious leaders was that their religion didn't come from a work of God. It came from head knowledge, no heart knowledge. They kept the law, but they were absent when it came to the relationship. And that's exactly why Jesus came. To restore the relationship between humanity and God. We have an opportunity today and every day to have our life changed and renewed with the blood of Christ. And it's super complicated, so try to pay attention. I was going to draw a diagram, and then it didn't work. And I thought about having somebody up here painting something, and then I forgot to ask Pastor Sam if she would do it. And there was all these ways that I was thinking about showing you how complicated it is to have this happen for you. And then here it is. Help me, Jesus. That's it. So complicated, isn't it? Help me, Jesus. Whatever's going on in your life today, whatever trials or difficult spots that you find yourself in, whatever health concerns you might have, whatever financial concerns you might have, whatever it is that's going on in your life today, the reality is, help me, Jesus, is the answer to everything. Because without him, there's nothing. Your problems don't matter without Jesus because they're minor compared to your eternity without Jesus. This life that seems so difficult here will seem like a dream come true compared to an eternity separated from God. This true religion, this desire to be with Christ and changed by him has to come with a changed heart. See, if you continue to do all the things that you always did, to be with the same people that you always were, to chase after the same things that you always chased after, and to believe all the things that you always believed, then you really didn't experience a change that comes with loving Jesus and chasing after him. You visited a country club and you got what you wanted and you left the rest behind. This is a veneer religion. That if you don't pick it up and do something with it, it's a waste. See, Jesus took the first step and he said, you know what? I'm going to treat you the way I want to be treated. I'm going to love you so much that I'm willing to die for you. I'm going to love you so much that even though I get to spend the 3 days in heaven with my Father, I'm going to come back and let you know that it was true. Because I know that many of you will need to touch my side and see the holes in my hands and feet because you don't believe and you need something to touch. I'm going to do all of that so that you can talk to the Father. So that you can love the Creator. So that you can have a relationship with God. Anything short of that is just simply a myth. Now here's the tough part for you. If loving God and means loving Jesus, and loving Jesus means doing what he asked us to do. And what he asked us to do was to love God and to love people. So much so that we would do to others what we expect to be done to us. Then we have to look at how Jesus loved us. He loved us in a manner that was all the way to death. If we lay that down, we have to love others that way too. That means, well, wouldn't it be nice? Let's go there. Wouldn't it be nice if there was equality for both sexes? That'd be nice. What if there was no racial discord? That'd be nice. That's already covered in what Jesus said. Treat others the way you want to be treated. It's very simple to do this. Oh, please go ahead. To let person in front of you to say, what you need is more important than what I need. We don't do that naturally. I'm a firm believer that it takes the actions of God and to create, and the actions of Jesus to die and spill his blood, and the actions of the Holy Spirit to make me sensitive to all of that for any of this to work. But it also takes action on my part. I have to turn from where I was to where I'm going. Because if I don't turn towards him, then I can claim to be whatever I want. But what I'm not is in relationship with him. I can stand up here and tell you from now on I'm a car. Yeah, I just went extreme. From now on, I'm a car. And when I talk, I will honk. That's what I'm going to do. And all of you have to accept it. Lunacy is what that is. Instead, what I'll stand up here and tell you is that I am a follower of Christ and I love God. And as a result, I love you. And whatever you need, whatever it is that I might be able to provide for you or find for you, I'll do it. And all of you should do the same with all of it. When we get outside those parameters, I looked and looked and looked for a way to say this without saying these words. And even though I have written something different, I think I'll just use the word. If you love God and have people that you hate, you're a liar because you don't love God. It's impossible to love God and hate man. Impossible. If you have even one person, if somebody came to your mind right now that you say, I hate, then you're a liar. You don't love God. That's harsh. But it's true. You can't love God and hate. Today, I want to suggest in the most strong way possible that if you love God, you have to be changed. You cannot continue to do and be what you've always been. I don't want to speak out against any one particular sin because I believe all sins are equal. But if you're dabbling in the sin world and you're not striving towards holiness, you don't really love God. You love your sin. Because it has a control on you that has to be let go when you love God. And if you're going to love God, you have to love people. That's the whole bundle. If I had a basket full of things, that would be the only two things in it. Love God, love people. Take care of it. If you don't have that, take care of it. If you find today that when you think through, what am I? What am I really? Who am I? Whose am I? If those are question marks for you today, I've got answers. They're not hard answers. The answer is the same every time you ask. Love God, love people. Everything else will be taken care of if you love God, love people. This isn't a get saved quick kind of thing. You can say a prayer and that starts a relationship. But if it doesn't go somewhere, to love Him, be changed by Him, and love people, then you missed. And it's a good time to start over. Easter's as good a time as any to start over. To reset the clock, to reset your attitude, to reset your life, and say, I love God. And now I'm going to start living like it. Because no longer can you say, I didn't know. It's my favorite excuse when people tell me, oh, I didn't know that was wrong. Really? I mean, really? You didn't know? Because I believe you compounded the problem with your lie of saying, I didn't know that was wrong. We instinctively know right from wrong, but we like to twist what's right and wrong and put a gray area in there and say, this is how it applies to me. I want what's right when it offends me, and I want what's wrong when it makes me happy. Today I encourage you to straighten out that path, to understand that what's right is right for everybody, and what's wrong is wrong for everybody. Love God, love people. The band's going to come back up and they're going to have one more song for us to worship in. But I encourage you today that even during this song or after the song, but before you leave here today, if there's even a shred of doubt in your mind, I would encourage you to come to the altar, to lay it down. I would encourage you that if you find yourself today with questions about, I don't know where I'm going, I don't know even where I've been, and I certainly don't know where I'm supposed to be, come to the altar. The Bible plainly says that if you lack wisdom, ask for it. You remember that that Jesus said, well, you don't have this because you didn't ask. See, the issue that most of us have is that we're very concerned about coming to these altars and praying because you're concerned. You know, you're sitting next to your friends and your family, and what will they think if I go up there? And I plainly tell you today, I don't care. If you're concerned about what people will think, don't. The person who thinks, oh, look at them, they're going up there. They probably should have got here before you. So as the band sings this song, I encourage you that if you need to lay it down, right here's the place to do that. Nothing special about these altars, but there is something special about getting before God and saying, I surrender this, I accept your redemption, and I will be changed by you. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for sending your Son. For sending your Son to die for us. Lord, we know that a heavy price is paid for our redemption. We accept that. We thank you that you were willing to pay such a price. Lord, help us to see you more fully in your glory. That we would walk step with step and step with you. Lord, take our lives. Use it for your glory. We ask all